Hello, everyone, and welcome to another MCAS show. I'm Jamie Fries-Miller, your host and health coach here at MCAS. Whether you're joining us live now or catching the replay later, we're so glad to have you with us. These lives are all about empowering you and on your mast cell journey with practical insights, expert advice, and support of our amazing community. I have to apologize for the time change. I know we announced that we were going to be switching to 12 p.m. Eastern this week, but due to a scheduling conflict, we're at our original 1 p.m. time, but we will be at 12 next week, so make sure to mark that on your calendars. Today, I'm joined by MCAS lead practitioner Kimberley Quirk for an Ask Anything MCAS or Mold live Q&A. So while everyone is hopping on, and thinking about the questions that you have, I thought we'd do something fun. Instead of telling us where you are, you can totally do that. Feel free to drop in the comments where you're tuning in from. But I am coming to you from the beach, hence my background. This is not really my view. I shot this earlier, but I am grateful this weekend for going boogie boarding. I did not think I would even get in the ocean, and because with MCAS, right, that drastic temperature change, even just like dipping your foot in and feeling that cold can like cause a mast cell flare or a little flare up. So I was actually really surprised that not only did I walk around in the ocean, I actually got in and got to play around with my son and my grandpa, and we all went boogie boarding. So feel free to drop in the comments. What is one thing that you did that was fun this weekend or something that you have gratitude for? And I'm going to ask Kimberly, what is one thing that you did this weekend?
I had a quiet weekend, but beautiful. We're having beautiful weather in the Northeast. So it's been like mid 70s during the day and like 48, 50 at night. So it's like perfect weather, not really needing any temperature change and no humidity. I guess what I'm thankful for is got to see my daughter and have dinner with her last night. And that's our Sunday tradition most Sundays. So just really, really love that.
Oh. All right. I don't know where our slides went. It looks like we're having a little bit of technical issues on Facebook's end. So we're streaming on YouTube and Facebook for those who don't know. Our team in the background is trying to get it back up in Facebook. But maybe, Zach, if you could let everyone know with the link to YouTube so that people can transfer over there, because we are doing a giveaway today of our basic mold course. So I do want to remind everyone that it is mold month and our course is on sale for the lowest it's ever been. For our basic, it is $129, and I'll share some links at the end. But if you are on with us and you want to participate in the giveaway, you can comment. We're going to be choosing from the comments. So you just basically have to comment at least once in order to be entered into the giveaway. All right. So let's see. I'm just going to get our slides back up here.
See, Carolyn commented she's in the Northeast too. Yeah, it's just perfect weather we're having. You cannot beat the Northeast weather for the late summer, early fall.
Yeah, perfect. Absolutely. Okay. So our quick disclaimers: today's presentation is for informational and educational purposes. It is not meant to treat, diagnose, cure, or prevent illness. So be sure to discuss any health recommendations with your healthcare provider. And just a reminder that some of the links that we share during this presentation or on our website are affiliate links, which means MCAS may earn a very small commission if you purchase through the link. And we only recommend products that we love, use personally, or use in the MCAS clinic. Okay, it looks like we may be back on Facebook now. So just really quick, everyone who is joining us live, we are doing a giveaway today. So all you have to do is participate in the chat. You must be logged into Facebook or YouTube in order to chat or to comment, sorry. Okay, so what are we going to be talking about today? It's all about you. We are going to be answering questions that you guys have about mold toxicity or mast cell activation syndrome. So please feel free to start putting those comments or questions into the comment section. And just some live Q&A reminders. Please keep your topic questions on today's topic. Please submit your question only one time. And please understand that we're unable to answer in-depth personal health questions. Okay, so let's see. I think we already have some things coming in. Yeah, so Carolyn is asking, do you recommend different binders for different mold species?
Yeah. We do. So yeah, we usually run a real-time lab mycotoxin test. Then we're looking at those, and then we're kind of comparing it to a chart of, what's coming up and which binders are going to be the best fit. Also, a really good question, as you're further in your detox and things aren't clearing, kind of like make sure we're layering on certain things. If there's a certain strain that's not clearing, how can we support that? But absolutely, we do that.
Yeah, and I think that's also what sets us apart a little bit differently is that it's a targeted binder approach, and it's individualized to the mycotoxins that you have versus a one protocol, one size fits all protocol that a practitioner might put you on and say, okay, you've done 6 months of a binder, you're probably good. We're tracking everyone's progress every 6 months to kind of see how those mycotoxins are changing. All right. Next question. Marcus is saying, I've had mold still in my body for years, even in a new house, allergic to silica and silicone dioxide. Is Takesumi charcoal a better alternative? Any fillers?
So Takesumi is one we'd like to start with. It is a bamboo-based charcoal. So I know a lot of people with mast cell have a lot of sensitivity to hardwoods. So bamboo is more hypoallergenic per se. And I like that you can get it as just a powder, right? Because you're going to probably find the silica and the silicon dioxide in the capsule, usually as an ingredient. So I would double check that on the Takesumi, but I think a Takesumi Supreme is a good place to start. And we want to start with sprinkles anyways if we're super sensitive. So yeah. The other tip I'll add, because I know how messy it can be to have Takesumi powder, right? It's black. You'll end up all over your teeth, all over your mouth, over your lips. Is to think about, and if you put it in water, it kind of floats, right? Because it's a negative binder, right? So you could add a little bit to, say, a little bit of applesauce or something like that to blend it in. Will it still be black and dark? Yes, but it might just help a little bit to make that a little bit easier if you're using the powder or opening a capsule. Yeah.
Gail is saying she reacts to citric acid. It has the HLA gene, making it difficult to detox. Considering these, what binder for mold would you recommend? And is there one that won't leach out a lot of nutrients?
So we do like to do gentle binding and start with, charcoal, a clean bentonite clay, a clean chlorella, depending on which, mycotoxins you have. Nothing we recommend has citric acid in it because that's almost everybody with histamine intolerance has it, and almost everybody here has a sensitivity to that. So everything that we recommend does not or minimize citric acid, depending on how sensitive you are. But we don't do a one-stop, this is the only binder we recommend, and it's a really super strong binder. It's kind of looking at which ones you have, and then really, and you'll see that in the mold. If you do the mold course, it'll lead you through all of that.
Yeah. So I was going to say the mold course will lead you through how to test to find out which mycotoxins you have so that you can then figure out which binders would be right for you. And then to answer the question about one that won't leach out a lot of nutrients, taking your binders an hour before or 2 hours after all other supplements and medications so that you're not binding to things that you are trying to replenish your body with. You may be taking it with a small snack, but avoiding it with a large meal where you're getting the main nutrition in your day. Sorry. So timing of binders as well can avoid that.
Yeah. And we try to avoid the prescription ones. I mean, sometimes for a short period of time, people do need to work with a practitioner that we recommend. We don't recommend the practitioner, but recommend working with the practitioner on a prescription if something's really not clearing. And sometimes you need short term, that kind of thing. But usually it's a longer journey, but slower, gentler is what I would describe versus going strong on a prescription binder or something. that might, leach that nutrient piece.
Yeah. Okay, next question. Karen is asking, can a father with mold toxicity contribute to a mother passing mold in utero? Same question for Lyme, chemical load, etc. Or is it only mom's toxicity that transfers? So I believe it's only mothers that transfers, but what I'm learning, what I've learned recently about mycotoxins is that we breathe them out. We can breathe them out. So if father is mold toxic and breathing out mycotoxins, mom may then be breathing those in as well. So I do think that when we are living in the same small confined spaces together, there's a higher probability of exchanging things like that. Do you have anything to add to that, Kimberly?
I will just say my lived experience in terms of I'm mold sensitive and have reacted to a partner from being in close contact. Yeah. So yeah, those of us who are super, super mold sensitive can react to other people who may be colonized with mold.
Yeah. And also if dad is Lyme or has a heavy toxic load, those can affect the quality of his sperm too. And so, working on the health of father prior to conception can be beneficial, or after the fact, the genes we pass on are the genes we pass on, and all we can do is continue to support the child to the best of our ability once outside. Okay. All right. Robert is asking, mold testing. With so many different types of mold, how can testing accurately determine which types are the most hurtful to your individual's physiology? It's a great question.
Yeah, that's a great question. So know that overall, in general, there's about 350 different kinds of mold. Only about 35 of those are toxic molds. Can you be sensitive to all molds? Yes. So yeah, there's a subset of us who are sensitive to all molds, and that's not the mold toxicity piece we're talking about. So, but we do have people, and I fit in all three buckets there, about the allergy piece, but also the toxicity piece, and then the colonization piece is the three ways that mold can affect us. So how can testing accurately determine which tests are most hurtful to your individual physiology? Well, any of the toxigenic molds that we're testing for are not good for anyone's physiology, even if you're not sensitive to them. So if it came up, it should be your environment should be looked at, and you should be taking binders or doing what you can to reduce that toxicity piece, and look at the colonization long term. Yeah.
Okay. Maureen is asking, do you recommend discontinuing probiotics until completion of antifungals for mold colonization, since some antifungals like berberine are antibacterial as well? Or do you recommend staying with probiotics and taking them a few hours away from before or after the antifungal?
So it is a good question. And so it depends on the person, right? For sure. What's going on individually always. But in general, we actually see certain strains of probiotics like Saccharomyces boulardii, Lactobacillus rhamnosus can be helpful, and we consider them a positive binder for mold, where they're kind of crowding out a little bit in the gut. So we don't necessarily discontinue probiotics unless the only time I've seen that is if I ran like a metabolomics on somebody and their lactic acid is high. I'm looking for which probiotics they're on. If they're lactobacillus, we're not trying to add to the lactic acid. That's the only time I've sort of said, okay, we need to kind of come off some of the probiotics if somebody's doing well on probiotics. Yeah.
Highly individualized.
It is. But in general, you don't need to come off probiotics. But I'll tell you, until you change that terrain, the probiotics don't always make a huge impact, right? It's not going to rebalance terrain when you have biofilm that's there from the mold.
Mm-hmm. All right, next question. Do you recommend treating H. pylori or mold first? How would you treat H. pylori?
So it depends, right? So in my perspective, H. pylori so all of us have a little bit of H. pylori in our stomach. It's that balance of H. pylori, just like all of us have a little bit of Candida in our gut. when H. pylori gets overgrown, where it's a problem, is usually when the stomach acid is low. So usually we're looking at the mold piece because we want to change the terrain, but also we're looking at that gut piece where we can support proper levels of digestion and things like that, because if that acid is low in the stomach, you might not be digesting and absorbing well. So we look at it from both angles, and I wouldn't say we treat. We don't treat here.
Yeah.
We address.
Okay. Mark is asking how major mold protocols are different. Shoemaker versus Neil Nathan versus Dr. Jill Krista versus Dr. Campbell. And then there's the 360 approach.
Right. And we're all different from, and I would say,
we pull from a little bit of
all of them. Right.
Yeah.
And being really unique on who is our client and who is this client, right?
Yeah.
But classically, I mean, Shoemaker made, like, total kudos to Shoemaker for even discovering the mold health connection. Huge, like, in mold, like he changed. Nathan and Shoemaker are slightly different. We tend to be more Nathan trained. That's how we are, but very much follow Jill Krista and Becky Campbell and all that. And they have a lot of wisdom to offer. So it's keeping that wide lens of who you are, what's going to help you move forward. I will tell you, I love Jill Krista's books, really eye-opening, Neil Nathan's books, but not all of our clients can implement everything that's in there. Or like, for example, Jill Krista tends to use more herbs and foods, but if our clients are salicylate sensitivity and have a lot of issues, they might not be able to follow and do all those things, at least right away. So we kind of know all those and try to use and incorporate what works for our client.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Judy is asking, she came in late. What is the mold course? I want to throw that up on the stage real quick for you, Judy. Our mold course is the course that our founder created to kind of step people through kind of how do you test to find out, is mold a problem for you? Once those test results come back, how do you put together an individual protocol? So this is the basic course. We do have an advanced version as well that has additional Q&As. And some additional information not provided in the basic level. It is on sale for the lowest it has ever been. The basic course is $129. Just by being here and commenting, you have been entered into a giveaway. So everyone who's listening, stay tuned to the end and find out if you were the winner. But our mold course basically is a self-paced version of what we're doing with our one-on-one clients. For some, it's enough to get them going. For others, they need that more individualized, slow approach. We do recommend something like stabilization first if you haven't done any nervous system work or haven't gotten any mast cell supports on board. Those are kind of the first two steps. And then before being able to handle the detox protocol that is in the mold course. So kind of figuring out where are you on your own individual journey. If you're ready for the mold detox, this is a great place to start. And maybe even if you're not ready, but know that mold is an issue for you, getting it during mold month while it's on sale is a great thing. So you can learn more at mastcell360.com/mold course. So we will go over that a little bit later again, but I just wanted to throw it up there, let everyone know that you're here with us. You've been entered if you're commenting into the giveaway. All right, next question. Okay. Dana's asking, I've been dealing with mold exposure for several years. Remediation has been completed. Lots of gut issues working through. Lately, worst symptom is panic and anxiety. She's already been on meds for regular anxiety, but meds aren't touching it. Is MCAS anxiety not responsible? Probably
responsive to meds.
Responding to, yeah.
I'm guessing what might be going on, right? So the gut issues. So when we come out of mold, so you remediated your house. Great. That's a huge, huge step, right? but realize that we've been affected by the environment, and it's usually we start to detox when you come out of mold. And where do we detox? We detox through the gut. So we see sometimes an increase in those gut issues when you're coming out of mold because you're detoxing it. And that makes me think there might be a little bit of histamine overload, right? Because a lot is coming through the gut, maybe throwing off that terrain in the gut. Histamine is very related to that anxiety piece for sure. So I would look a little bit deeper at how can you support yourself around reducing your histamine, what we call the histamine bucket. We just did a group coaching on that, but yeah, overall looking at that histamine piece that might kind of bring down some of the anxiety piece because it can be biochemically driven. Mm-hmm. Also know that the mold dysregulates the nervous system a bit. So sometimes the nervous system piece can be huge for kind of calming some of that down along with working on the histamine piece.
Yeah. Okay. Gail is saying she's been tested for mold, was told that mold binders don't work if you have the allergene. Is that your experience?
No.
Yeah, not our experience.
Not our experience. As a result, yeah. So no, it hasn't been our experience. I wouldn't leave that be the thing. But if that is too strong of a binder, you could certainly start with some of these more gentle binders to see where you get with it. It might be not as quick a journey, but it's also a gentler, slower journey, which most of us do better with versus something a little harsher and faster that the body is not loving that.
Yeah. Okay, next question. Paul is asking, what's the best test to clarify if, I'm assuming she's wants to clarify if mold is in her body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Our favorite test is the real-time lab urine mycotoxin. I think they call it the total mycotoxin. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But the urine mycotoxin test by real-time labs. The beautiful thing about it is you can order it yourself. You don't even need a practitioner. But I'm sure we'll put a link in for where you could order it from. And that's the best place. I mean, that really opened my eyes when I was going through this. Like, oh, so realize that test is going to show if you've been exposed to mold. It could be past, but it could be present. So then the next question you want to kind of answer after that is testing your environment to see if you are currently in mold. And there's another test that tests your house. Big picture, kind of trying to look at that and explore that.
Yeah. Okay. Carolyn is asking, where can I find a list of doctors who do treat mycotoxin illness? So,
ISEAI.
Yeah, ISEAI.org.
Society for Environmental Acquired Illness. Those are all. So they have a practitioner list. I'm not even sure if we are on it. We probably are. I have no idea. I actually went to that recently. But they have a list of practitioners, both for house and for your body, who believe in that mold piece.
Yeah. And also for those who are listening into today's call, while we are not licensed medical practitioners, we are a remote health consulting practice. We do help educate and inform clients on kind of protocols, next steps for them individually that they can then coordinate with their practitioners on for if prescriptions or something like that is needed. So I will throw up here that we do have 2 tiers to work with our clinic. The first tier is strategy sessions. This is our foundational approach where you meet with a health coach. We can kind of give you that individualized approach on the real-time lab testing. Are your mast cells stabilized enough? Are you ready for a mold detox? And then our advanced approach, maybe you already have discovered you have mold toxicity, haven't been making progress with your current practitioners, and you're looking more for that comprehensive option. That would be our advanced approach. And you can find both of those options at mastcell360.com/application. Okay, let's see. All right, some more questions coming in. Okay. Carolyn's saying her daughter is positive on a reliable mold test. She had the home test and there was high levels of Candida. Can't to whether it's a human problem or a house problem. Okay.
So realize if you're getting, so I'm wondering how you're having your home tested. When I did mold plates in my house, a lot of Candida was coming up, but it was missing the mold piece. And that's where I recommend the ERMI, which is a dust test. But usually if Candida is coming up, that's usually shed by human or pet. So it could just be showing that, hey, we have like a yeasty problem in the house and it can be shed by you. So know that. But I do wonder, you said had the home tested. I'll tell you, I had 3 mold pros through my house who told me there was no mold problem, and there was. It was just super hidden, and my body was letting me know about it because it was so upregulated for mold.
Yeah. So that would be the ERMI test that we recommend to maybe do a more comprehensive mold test in the house. And like Kimberly said, when we do the real-time lab mycotoxin test on humans, it could be a past exposure or a current exposure. So when that comes back, you're saying she had a positive, reliable mold test. So knowing that, then she went to try and test the house. Maybe the mold didn't come up, but the Candida did, but clearly she's investigating mold in her body. Yeah, she's been exposed.
Yeah. And then the question is, could she be exposed at school? And so we see that. Or somewhere else. So looking at that, we have clients who've been exposed to work or school or my own kids in dorm rooms. So yeah.
All right. Let's see. Marcus is asking, are there certain foods that help detox mold even with GI detox I take now? I'm assuming you're mentioning the GI detox is the supplement that you're taking.
So yeah, Jill Christa has a great book on this. So it depends on what you're tolerating. I love some of the seeds and fibers and things like that, to natural ways if you tolerate them, if you do well with them. I mean, if we have SIBO and things like that, we don't do well with fibers, but like flaxseed is great. Psyllium husk can be helpful. Some of those can be super helpful for helping. They kind of are binders and can move that along. Yeah, for a long time I couldn't eat fiber because I had like that overgrowth in my gut. Yeah, so it depends on where your gut's at and where you're at and what you tolerate.
Yeah, Paula's saying that she's been sick for 9 months and has lost 72 pounds. She needs to know about mold. So she doesn't know about mold yet, struggled to afford the testing. They've moved out. How do you know the right way to choose what else to do? And has spent, like so many in our community, has spent a lot of money with regular doctors and has not gotten any answers. So we are so sorry, Paula, that you're currently not feeling your best. And
you're not alone.
Yeah.
It sometimes takes a lot to figure this out and to get to that piece. I do feel like mold is such a huge piece for so many with chronic illness because it affects us in so many ways and affects our terrain, and it can be past exposure. And I mean, the EPA says there's at least a 50% of homes and buildings have a mold problem. If the EPA says that, I think it's actually higher. It's actually higher, and depends on where you're living and all of that. I'm so sorry you are not feeling well. But yeah, take the next one step, right? Maybe it's testing your body, checking your environment, and just going the next piece.
Yeah. And if you are able to tolerate salicylates, like Jill Christa's book is so much food-based stuff and some more food-based type supplements. Like we said, some of our clients aren't able to tolerate that approach given things like salicylate intolerance. But, doing we all have to eat. So if you can, like Marcus was asking, are there foods that you can do? And that book, I'll have Zach or Cam drop it in the comments for you. Her book is called Break the Mold. So that's a great place to start as far as like what you can do on an affordability level. I'd say it's probably starting there. But yeah, like Kimberly said, just choosing that one next step. So maybe it is, saving a little bit of money to do the mold test to see, okay, now I know which mycotoxins I am dealing with, and then going from there. Okay. Can mold and histamine issues cause high cholesterol?
Mold definitely can, right? Because it changes our terrain. Realize that our body uses bile to bind mold. So bile is used for several reasons in our body, right? To break down fats, but it also binds up toxins. And so those mycotoxins are bound by that. Our lipids can get kind of dirty, cloggy, all of that with the bile can. And then our body's not recycling our lipids well. And I'll tell you, it's very, very common to have high cholesterol with mold exposure. And takes a little bit to get back. But, also we see, I prefer somebody with a little bit elevated cholesterol than low cholesterol, because you need low cholesterol to repair the body, to build hormones, all those things. So, but yeah, we do see that quite a bit. And, post detox, some of that can sort of shift over.
Okay. Mark is asking, there's no consensus on mycotoxins tests. Dr. Campbell prefers blood to urine, but he owns My Myco Lab. And what is our take?
So our take on that, we love the real-time lab urine mycotoxin test is our sort of standard in clinic one that we love to run because it's a sensitive enough test and a good test. There are a few people we have who have not come positive on that, and we have run the My Myco Lab on them. So what does My Myco Lab look at? The My Myco Lab is a blood test, and it's looking at antibodies. That tells me more like you're sensitive to mold. You've probably had some exposure. It's a good test, but it's not really telling us how we're detoxing. So that's how it's a little bit different. And yeah, there is no consensus, and everybody does it a little bit different.
Yeah. Okay. No, it's not going away. Oh, okay. Let's see. Next question. Okay, Terry's asking to follow up on the bile question. Yeah. If bile binds mold, does that mean if you've had your gallbladder out, you are more susceptible to mold? Would supplementing with gallbladder salts, TUDCA, etc., help bind mold?
Great question. So know that your gallbladder, right? So your gallbladder doesn't produce the bile, your liver produces the bile, but your body does store bile in your gallbladder. So you do still have some bile, even without a gallbladder, but maybe not as efficient system. I do think it's pretty common that those who lose their gallbladder may have been exposed to mold and didn't know why they were forming stones and had that gunky thing going on. So how could we support bile production? So absolutely, if you don't have your gallbladder, I see a lot of people do really well with something like ox bile. So you're replacing bile with ox bile. TUDCA is helpful for some that's sort of more of a bile thinner. If you're low on bile salts, things like taurine certainly or glycine can help. Depends on who you are and sort of what the problem is there, but absolutely it's worth looking at how can you support your body better with detoxing mold and when that bile gets kind of gunky, because your body recycles bile like something like 26 times before it creates new, and that's where the binders work for mold, where they're taking your old bile and taking them out, and it sort of forces your body to make more bile. It's very labor intensive for your body to produce bile, and that's why it's recycled so much.
Okay, Catherine is saying, what's your opinion on, I'm guessing, moldy dogs after using an
mold dogs?
Mold dogs. I was thinking about our mold detox, our detox your dog course, guys. In our mold course, we have a detox your dog module because their detox systems are different than ours. So if you do find mold in your home, it's possible that your dog is also experiencing mold toxicity. So sorry, yeah. I read that question wrong. A little side note information.
Side note. Dog lovers. So mold dogs. So after the ERMI, I love a visual inspection before I'd probably call in a mold dog. And that's something you can start yourself. Like it made me just get really super curious, right? When you test and you're like, something's here. So let me look at where are all the areas in my house where could be water, right? So you go to the laundry room, right? Sometimes we don't think a washer, or we look behind the dishwasher, we look behind the fridge. We start doing some inspections ourselves. You can also call in somebody do a visual inspection, like a mold inspector who gets the mold illness piece. And we often recommend looking at, again, the ISEAI has mold inspectors who really get that mold illness piece. But sometimes it's still hard to find. And then, yeah, we have had clients where a mold dog has opened some eyes to some hidden things. So just depending where you are in the process, if you're really having a hard time finding it, I mean, dogs have an amazing sense of smell, and I would think that they'd be able to find some hidden mold.
Yeah. Okay, Olga's asking 2 questions. One, if there's mold in the house, would it be best to keep the windows open as much as possible, or having a mold AirDoctor Air Angel on, or having windows open and both devices running the same time?
So it depends on what the air is outside, right? So if you we're coming into fall is leaves and mold time. So it depends on what's in the air, right? And how sensitive you are to it, where you are, if the humidity is really high. So it kind of depends, and it depends on how bad the mold is in the house. But in general, air circulation is good. AirDoctor and can still help keep that air circulation, even if the windows are open, and kind of keep things moving. I keep mine on 24/7 and on manual as high as I can stand the fan.
Yeah. And then her second question, increasing the speed intensity of AirDoctor smells more weird smell in the room. Air Angel does not help significantly with the smell, although symptoms with Air Angel are better. Would you recommend running the AirDoctor on a higher speed? So yes, you had kind of just mentioned that,
Yeah. So she's saying my other question is, do you have ionization on? Because you can turn on and off on the AirDoctor the ionization. And some people are sensitive. Those of us sometimes are sensitive to the ionization piece. So you can turn that ionization button off. Because some people are sensitive to that. Can it help? It can help. But if you're sensitive and you're not feeling comfortable, worth maybe turning it off and then just using it as more filter.
Yeah, and these are the 2 products that we recommend in clinic as a combination of like a defensive and offensive approach to improving air quality for those who might be asking, what is the Air Angel and what is the AirDoctor? Or HypoAir Air Angel. We do have blog posts on both of those that we can drop in the comments for you guys to learn more about those, because when we're improving our environment and removing triggers in mast cell activation syndrome, we really want to focus on that air first. So that looks like, is there mold in the environment? If remediation is not immediately possible, how can we improve that air quality so that we're not getting as much continuous exposure? Okay. Marcus is asking, what tests tell you how well you're detoxing?
So I'm wondering if he's referring to when we were talking about the real-time lab. That may be. So I'll answer this 2 parts. One part is we do like to, so we don't just run the real-time lab mycotoxin test one time. Once you are on binders, we recommend, and that's also recommended in the mold course, if you take that every 6 months, we run it just to see where you are. So that's how we kind of measure how things are detoxing. Are things going up? Are they going down? Have we done a good job on the house? Are we binding and getting things out really well? The other thing is I like to run organic acids and amino acids testing, because that really measures if you're not a good detoxer, it can find some problems going on or some nutritional cofactors that we might be missing in the diet just due to absorption or diet that can support you detoxing better. So I do love that test. That shows really, it's been eye-opening for some clients to really see like, we're missing, say, one of the B vitamins or several of the B vitamins that are really necessary. But if you are someone who's super sensitive and can't onboard those B vitamins, now would not be the time to do that test.
Okay. Should we take statins for high cholesterol if the doctor is recommending? Mold and histamine to doctor was mentioned, but ignored. Recommended testing with special dye. Isn't that a big no-no? So obviously we don't know enough about your case. We're unable to say whether or not you should be taking statins, but
yeah, I mean, some people need to take them sometimes genetically, right? Genetically, there's some things going on and it's going to be a support. So it depends on who you are. I know there can be more detailed testing that certain doctors will run that you can get more information rather than just looking at a standard cholesterol panel, getting more detail on what's going on. Off the top of my head, I'm not remembering, but there's certain ones where it might identify, oh yeah, this is, a lipo-A, right? If lipo-A is high, there might be something genetic as well going on, and maybe it might be worth it. So it's something to think through, maybe seeking out another doctor who, functional doctor or something like that, who might be able to look a little bit deeper at that. And then special dyes depends on who you are, right? And what you react to.
Okay. It looks like my internet's a little staticky, so I'm going to throw questions up. Can you still hear me, Kim?
Mm-hmm. I can hear you.
All right, next question. Been running around Canada trying to complete the testing for MCAS. It looks bleak. Do you work with patients who tick all the boxes? Do you not have a diagnosis? Do you not have to have a diagnosis? So first of all, we are not treating anybody. We are a remote health consulting clinic, but you do not need a MCAS diagnosis to work with our clinic, which is great. And we are currently seeing international clients. So you can go to mastcell360.com/application is where you'll find the ability to apply to work with one of our practitioners. Okay.
Because what we're really looking at, we want you to lose that diagnosis too, even if you had it. In terms of not be able to test well for it, doesn't mean you won't have the tendency for it, but how can we improve it, right? And try to get at that root cause piece so it's not life limiting for you.
All right. Can you use real-time lab or Great Plains test to see if you're colonized or only have toxins from mold? How can you tell?
Good question. So I like the real times for the mycotoxin piece. For the colonization piece, I like Great Plains is now called Mosaic. So Mosaic has, you can even do a subset. So you can either do the organic acids testing, which has a big panel for the microbial piece, and it has 9 yeast and fungal markers. But you can also do the subset called it's called a MOAT, M-O-A-T, microbial oat. So it is just doing that microbial piece. It has 9 markers. That's probably one of the biggest I've seen out of all the organic acids tests. So I do like it for that, for looking at the colonization piece. But take that with the caveat, it's 9 markers. There's more. It's not every single marker you could possibly have. So sometimes it's missed. I mean, very much paying attention to your symptoms, both sinus as well as gut. Because sometimes that even answers that question. But if you really need a test, the Mosaic MOAT, if you're just looking at that. So I love organic acids testing overall.
Okay, Christy's asking, what would your recommendation be if you're not out of mold yet, but have POTS, Ehlers-Danlos symptoms as well as MCAS? What binders would be helpful until you can move? According to an oat and mycotox test, higher levels of mold and Candida in our body. So without knowing your individual case, this is really hard to say what our personalized recommendations would be. This would be a great opportunity for a strategy session so that we can learn more about your individual health history, what has already been done to improve air quality. If you're unable to get out of mold, there are things that we can discuss and help support you in that area, as well as reviewing those the mycotoxin test to see for you individually what binders we would recommend. And then also supporting you in maybe some diet things to kind of help avoid continuing to feed the Candida as well. So that would be a really good opportunity for the strategy session. I'll throw that up again. We can do that You can find that at mastcell360.com/application is one way that we can support you on a personalized level, but we're unable to answer that in today's show. All right.
Kudos for finding out the mold piece.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I had severe POTS, like passed out 3 minutes on a tilt table. And so did my son. And being out of mold, that all went away. Immediately? No, over time. It's I see POTS very much can be a neuro symptom for those of us who are mold sensitive.
Okay. Let's see. Remove this. Jamie's saying, I do have mold in my system and I'm working through the steps to detox, taking Ketotifen. It's been a game changer. However, gained 15 pounds, which is disappointing. Any suggestions for keeping the weight down?
Yeah. So when we're detoxing, the weight tends to go up because inflammation's going up. Everything's kind of going through the gut. Ways to keep the weight down. I mean, I do also see weight. Sometimes our body increases the weight just from the inflammation, the water, but also it's a safety. It's almost like a safety kind of thing. I mean, longer term, I am on the other side where I'm on the weight loss piece now, sort of post mold, and very much looking at, for me, I had hidden insulin resistance. So making sure that's not there because that kept me stuck for a while and I didn't even know I had it. And trying to reverse that with diet and exercise to your ability, right? Staying within your, not shooting up that cortisol piece because cortisol, insulin will follow cortisol. That was very much happening for me. The more that you can kind of reverse the insulin cortisol piece, if that's going on, can help sort of with the weight as well as detoxing. It's not an overnight fix though.
Here's another Ketotifen question. Experiencing intense anxiety from MCAS, partly mold driven, quite intense exacerbations from some antihistamines. Tried Ketotifen and feel a change with lowering the agitation and anxiety, but have a very low feeling when the agitation is taken away. Would that make Ketotifen in likelihood unsuitable, or there's sometimes an adjustment period?
So it sounds like the histamine's being lowered, right? So that's telling me like the Ketotifen maybe probably some high histamine in the gut that's coming down with the Ketotifen, but then a very low feeling when the agitation, so feeling more depression, right? Which can be sort of the mold piece and the colonization piece. It makes me think about, would it make Ketotifen unlikely unsuitable? No, maybe there's some other pieces that you need. It sounds like it's helping with the anxiety piece, but you still need to work on that mold piece, right? That's what's coming up for me. And the detox.
Okay. So NJ is asking, if you have mold toxicity, are you colonized?
Not always, but often. So depends on how long you were exposed. Just know that when you're in an environment, you're breathing it in. Just picture like if you were in a fish in an aquarium, how much water from inside that tank is inside that fish. That's what happens to us too in our indoor environments, especially when it's shut up. So like depend on how moldy the building is and such, but the biome in the building becomes your inner biome as well. So just know that. So are we always colonized? Not always, but it's pretty common. And sinuses, anywhere you have a mucus layer, it can grow, but sinuses and gut are the typical places.
Mark is asking, what is the test for amino acids, and are any tests covered by insurance if ordered by a doctor?
So my favorite is metabolomics, and that's by Genova. It's a big picture test. It looks at both organic acids and amino acids. I don't love to just look at organic acids because organic acids come from amino acids. So it's like if you see a shortage, it's like, oh, what's going on with the amino acids? And you want to look at those. So metabolomics is that. Are any tests covered by insurance, afforded by a doctor? I haven't heard of the metabolomics being covered or organic acids being covered by a doctor, because they would need then a diagnosis code and all those things. So unlikely. Pricing for that test, it is a big test though. It's a big picture functional medicine test. And I'll say the price for it is somewhere around 500, something like that, which is not inexpensive. But it can show some things if you're really stuck and you've done all the things, you've done the nervous system work, you're out of mold, you know, maybe detox mold, and things just aren't making sense or in your body. I think it's really worth running that.
Okay, 2 more questions, I think. What do you recommend for oh my God, they always have
Fumonisins.
2 and 3. Her child has been on cholestyramine for over 6 months, and the markers are moving just a little bit.
So that one is typical in the diet. And I'm wondering if there might be a diet component, if I'm right. Or that one, I mean, we don't see it on the real-time lab test. So they're doing a little bit different. I'm guessing they're looking at my myco labs, but it makes you wonder if there might be some diet. So know that grains are very high. I'm thinking this is coming from fusarium, but I'm not 100% sure because we don't look that granular at the fumonisins. But makes me wonder, did you take out all grains and all things that are more moldy crops? Yeah. Is what I would look at.
Peanut butter is a huge moldy crop too in the diet if they're eating
peanut butter. Peanut butter, yeah. I tell everybody go off peanut butter. Hugely moldy. Coffee is a hugely moldy crop. Chocolate, unfortunately, is a hugely moldy crop. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I don't know how to get that banner off. Hide current banner. Okay. All right. Are there any last questions? Okay. I look through. I just want to throw that up. Christy saying thank you for giving your experience. It's definitely giving her hope.
Very welcome.
Okay, we covered that one. All right. Let's see. I'm not 100% sure what Terry means here. Read that there are substances that are mold releasers and those that are mold binders. Do you have a favorite or best suggestion for supplements that address both those things?
I'm wondering if she's talking about like the bioflavonoids. That's how I'm reading it. Like if you follow Jill Krista. Yeah. So I do like, if you can tolerate, it depends on who the person is. Like if somebody has really high ochratoxin A, that is very much binds to albumin in the blood and is very very hard on the kidneys. It's a persister mycotoxin. So bioflavonoids, which can be diet or can be supplement, are great to do before binders because it makes the binders a little bit more effective. So I have seen some good results, and I know that's Jill Krista is big on that. Bioflavonoids before binders is what she says, at least especially for like ochratoxin A.
Okay, and Catherine's asking, Ketotifen is known to cause weight gain and reduce serotonin, which is causing her to question using it. Do you have any other recommendations?
So yeah, if you're looking for others, so Ketotifen we see as a mast cell med. The other one to look at is cromolyn sodium, to talk to your prescriber about. That's another mast cell med that we see that works pretty well at stabilizing those mast cells. Then there's the whole supplement side. And there's a lot you can do, everything from, depending on what you tolerate, but quercetin, perilla seed extract, gotu kola tea. There's just a whole, and literally I was on like 6 or 7 different supplements that help with that mast cell stabilization piece.
Yeah. Okay. Looking to see if there's any more questions through here. All right, last one. Janet's asking, do you see mold toxicity symptoms as mostly sinus related, and are there symptoms that show up in the gut as far as digestion? It's a great question.
So yeah, depends on the person. Some people only have sort of some of the sinus related symptoms. Are symptoms that show up in the gut so realize if you're colonized in your sinuses, it's going to drip down and affect your gut. So know that and can colonize that gut. Is there any symptoms that show up in the gut as far as digestion? Well, yeah, it can change your biofilm, and you don't have great absorption of nutrients and things like that can be going on as well. Can throw off digestion, can lead to SIBO, often chronic SIBO. They keep treating the SIBO keeps coming back because they haven't gone as far upstream to deal with the mold in the environment, the mold in the sinuses, the mold in the gut, and changed over the terrain, because you can change the terrain short term with things to treat them, but it just keeps coming back. That's what we see often.
Yeah. Okay, so we do have the winner for, let me see, get the question down. Okay, the winner of the basic course is Robert Dulskis. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Please message our team at support@mastcell360.com. Again, that's support@mastcell360.com. And our team will get you all set up with access to the basic mold course. And just some quick reminders for those who have been on with us. I want to go back real quick. In addition to the mold course, we do have a free new resource, which is a guide and has a quiz to kind of understand, is mold a hidden trigger for your MCAS? The quiz can help you determine if you have mold toxicity, our top tips on gentle detox, and what to do first if you are sensitive. So you can get that at mastcell360.com/mold guide. And if you already know mold's an issue for you, go ahead, check out mastcell360.com/mold-course, where you can get the basic course for its lowest price at $129. And Kim, do you have any parting words for our audience today to give hope and reminders that?
Yeah, start where you are. Don't try to jump to the end. Like if you're not at the detox part, that's okay. That's okay. Work on the stabilization piece, or work on the environment piece, or just start with the real-time lab mycotoxin test if you're not even sure mold affects you. I think that's important. The other, I don't know if you want me to answer, there's one other really good question that came in about how to, from Carolyn, how to test the nose for colonization. So how do we don't test the nose for colonization, and this is why. So, because you can test the nose, right? And they do test for Marcons. We don't do that, but certain mold practitioners do, and that's fine. And that kind of tells you some of the biome that's going on in your nose. But realize that your sinuses go really far back, and there's no way you can get into those little nooks and crannies. That your sinuses are tiny little, so they could be way, way back. You can have some colonization. So it's more, we run the mycotoxin test because if that's still coming up positive, if you have colonization, because you're producing mycotoxins internally. And then, looking at the symptom piece, like if you're someone who's always had a ton of sinus symptoms, most likely you have some colonization going on. And then we kind of, work to kind of treat that. I shouldn't say treat, but we work with your practitioner, right? Because a lot of it is prescriptive and things like that. But we suggest things that you might want to look at to treat that.
Okay. All right, everyone. Congrats, Robert, on winning the course. And thank you all for being here. Just a reminder, we will be back next week at 12 p.m. Eastern for a live show with our special guest, Stephen Wright, who is going to be talking about mold and the gut, one of our favorite topics. All right. Have a nice week, everyone. See you next time.